Welcome to my Ramadan meal prep vlog where I'll be taking you through everything you need to meal prep easily, from helpful planning tips, recipes, packing ideas and more so that you can prep without any hassle. Hello guys, this is Aisha. Welcome back to the channel. We're here for another super important meal prep video. It's almost Ramadan, so you know what time it is. It's time to do our very elaborate Ramadan meal prep. If you remember, we meal prepped together last year as well. I've shared a lot of the classic traditional Ramadan recipes in that video, so if you want to check that out, I'm going to link it over here. But today we're also going to do some traditional recipes, but also a few different ones that you can try out if you're bored of doing the same thing over and over again. So I've broken down my Ramadan meal prep in a few phases. So we have the frozen meals, we have the condiments as one phase, we have the Suhoor stuff as one phase. So I'm going to break down this video accordingly so that it's very easy for you to follow as well. Before we get into any of that, you have to do phase 1, which is planning and organizing. Even if you take absolutely nothing out of this video, no recipe, no packing, nothing at all, just take these tips. I know a lot of people find Ramadan meal prepping, or any meal prepping in fact, really confusing, really daunting, because it seems like a lot of work and it seems like it's going to take a lot of time, and then you think, is it really worth it? Why am I spending a few days doing this when I could just do it in the moment and fry or make or whatever? But trust me, doing meal prep correctly is going to be life-changing for you, especially during Ramadan, because I know that all of us want to spend more time doing what we're supposed to do during Ramadan, so we don't want to spend time in the kitchen. And these tips are going to make your meal prep so easy. It's going to make such a world of difference. Like, I cannot tell you, like, if you do this whole thing, if you do your Ramadan meal prep without any organization, without any planning, it's going to be so frustrating for you. You're going to find it so annoying that you might even leave it halfway through. Things will not be done properly, things will not be stored properly. But if you just start in a more organized way, if you just spend a little time just planning and organizing and just following the tips that I'm giving you right now, you will be able to do it so quickly and you will save so much time. So with that, let's begin. So the planning. First things first, one thing I would highly recommend to you, and this is not an ad or anything, use the software called Notion. So Notion is like basically an organization software. It's free if you're just one person using it. If you're not using it in an office or a team, it's completely free for one user, unlimited usage. It is like, I cannot explain to you how much I love Notion. Like, I am Notion's biggest lover, biggest advocate. My entire life is organized on Notion. So why am I talking about it right now? Because I think if you use Notion instead of like regular notes and so on, it just can become very, very easy for you to organize your entire meal planning process. You don't have to do it, but it's just a tip from me. Here is tip number 1. Make a list of the things you need to do and break them down in sections. Just like I mentioned that I've broken this down, the whole meal prep, into a few phases, you should do the same. Just write down all the tasks you have, break them down into 3, 4, 5 suitable phases, and then plan accordingly that when are you going to do what. I would highly recommend not to do everything in one day. It's just going to get overwhelming. Instead, just break it down and go like, okay, this phase 1, the freezer prep, I'm going to do on Sunday, and then the next thing on Monday or Tuesday or Friday, whatever it is. Trust me, if you break it down into small phases, start earlier instead of starting last minute. Start earlier and do it in 4 or 5 days. It's just going to be so much easier. It's going to be so much less frustrating and tiring, and you'll be able to make whatever you're making a lot better. Tip number 2 is to make a list of all the grocery items you need and shop for them beforehand. I cannot emphasize how important this is, whether you're meal prepping, whether you're hosting, even if you're just cooking a meal at home, because I've had instances where I don't have the ingredients in hand and everything just becomes so much harder, because then I have to run around, maybe go to the grocery store, maybe call the grocery guy, tell them to deliver, so on. They might take another 30 minutes and then that just derails the entire timeline, the entire process. And if you just make a list beforehand, that's what I do. I basically listed down everything that I would need for my meal prep, wrote down what are the things that I don't have, but just having everything, just knowing that everything is there is it's going to save you so much time. Tip number 3, something that's a follow-up of tip number 2, but apart from groceries, also make sure that you have everything you need to store your meal prep, because I think that is one of those things that we just don't do on a regular basis. We don't really store our food, we don't really freeze our food that often, but this is something that is very critical to meal prepping. You need to have the correct packaging to pack it correctly and store it, because if you do not pack and store it correctly, then all your meal prep can go to waste, because things can go bad by the time you want to use it. So make sure that you make a plan for every single item. This is extremely crucial. Do this before you start, because when you're doing it and you're not able to, like, let's say you made your chutneys and then you can't find the right thing to place it in, you might just put it in any boxes, and then it might make it very difficult for you to store it as well. So you have to keep storage in mind too when you are deciding what jars or whatever packages you're using. Keep the storage in mind. Tip number 4 is to put all your recipes in one place. A lot of times you know the recipes by heart, so that's fine, but if you do not know the recipes by heart, and if you're following someone else's recipe, for instance, if you see my recipes and you want to follow them, I would highly recommend that you create some sort of document, copy all of your recipes, put them in one place, in one document. Then you can just go through that one document instead of going, oh, I have to go to this website, oh, I have to find this Instagram caption to find the recipe, and so on. Again, that's just going to make you inefficient, and efficiency is literally the key to successful and smooth meal prepping. Now, I personally do this on Notion, and I use their meal prep template. I'm going to show you how I do it and how you can do it as well, and it's all free. I'm just going to run you through the entire process so that if you want to do it in the same way, you can do it as well. Once you have a Notion account, search for Notion meal prep template on Google and click on the first result. Once you click on get template, it will redirect you to your Notion browser. Select your workspace and add to private. Once you do this, the template will be added to your workspace. This meal planning template is super simple to use. You can input recipes according to days of the week on top, and if you scroll down, you can find the meal section where you can add your recipes. There are some example recipe cards. You can change any details in them or create new cards and add the ingredients, steps, photos, links, basically any information you need. Then you can go back to your weekly planner on top and remove and add any meals from your list. Any recipe card you add to the meal section will show up here and make your planning super easy. Tip number 6, which is one of the most important things that you should do, not just for meal prepping, but especially for meal prepping, is to prep all your ingredients in advance, whatever you can prep, So a lot of times meal prepping requires a lot of chopping and cutting and so on. If you do these things in bigger volumes beforehand, before you begin actually doing the steps of the recipe, once again, it's going to just make the process so much easier. It's going to save you time. It's what I do. Like, look at this. I have chopped all my onions, chopped the coriander, because that's 2 of the ingredients that I'm using a lot throughout this meal prep. I have peeled all my garlic cloves, because this is one of the most time-consuming things I have to do during cooking. And just doing this one day in advance, the night before, or even the morning before you start, it's going to just make the whole thing so easy. And why I emphasize on making it easier, it's because you have to do a lot of things. So usually meal prep requires you doing multiple tasks, making multiple recipes, and if you don't do it, if you don't prep beforehand, you're going to have to put more physical, more mental, all of those energies, more of it are going to be used through the process, and that's just going to make it difficult for you because you're doing so many tasks. If everything is already organized, doing those tasks, many of them, even if there are 10 recipes, it'll be very easy for you because you've done all these not difficult, but all these boring small tasks beforehand that require time. Now you just have to put things together. So this is a tip I highly recommend you take. And tip number 7, the final tip, is also to make sure that you have the right bowls and the right equipment that you need for making your meal prep. So let's say you need bowls, you need spoons, you need everything. Try to kind of like, at least in your head, decide, okay, these are the things I'm going to use, and just make sure that they're all washed, because a lot of times your storage boxes might be in the fridge, they have something in it, they're already full. So your mixing bowls, your storage bowls, all of those things, your spoons, your baking trays, everything you need. Just make sure that you are aware roughly of what you want to use, and they're all clean, they're all washed, they're all available for you to use. Again, just for efficiency's sake. I think you get the theme of my tips today is efficiency and to make the Ramadan meal prep easier for you. And these are tips that are applicable for any meal prep that you want to do. If you follow these things, trust me, the whole whole process is going to be so smooth and you will end up saving so much time. Now that all of our tips are done, let's begin phase 2 of the meal prep, which is frozen food meal prep. This is obviously going to be things that we make ahead, freeze and use during Ramadan. This will include a few things, but the first thing we're going to start with are puff pastries. Today we are making 3 types of puff pastries. The first one are sweet cheese puffs. So these are basically something that I remember eating since I was since I was born. Like, I don't remember a time when we did not eat this in our houses during Ramadan. They're just perfect and absolutely delicious, and obviously they're sweet, that's in the name. So you must have seen this recipe in the last Ramadan meal prep as well, but like I said, it is a tradition in our house, so I'm gonna show them to you again. Then we're going to make zaatar and cheese puffs, and the third filling we're going to do is a pizza inspired filling. So we're going to do cheese, pepperoni, some of the tomato sauce and all those elements of pizza. And the best part about this is that you can basically customize it based on what maybe you like to add in your pizza. So before we begin, I would highly recommend that you make all the fillings in one go. So right now I'm going to do all the 3 fillings and then I'm going to fill all the puff pastries. So this just makes the process easier because I'll have all the fillings ready and then I can have an assembly station, have all of them trayed out here, and then that will just, in one go I can just fill them all in. Let's start with the zaatar cheese filling. It's really simple to make. I like to use block cream cheese like curry with zaatar, salt, lemon and olive oil. Mix it well with a fork or with a whisk until it's well combined and then set it aside. Next, the pizza puffs. First, we'll make the tomato sauce by mixing canned tomatoes, salt, black pepper, oregano, garlic and parmesan until combined. You can also use a store-bought pizza sauce if you want to. Then I make the cheese mix, add mozzarella cheese, salt, chili flakes, black pepper, sun-dried tomatoes and any dried meat of your choice and mix until combined. Now let's assemble. I use these store-bought puffs, just make sure to defrost them. For the pizza puffs, I'm using 1 whole sheet for each. First place the sauce at the bottom, then place the cheese mixture on one side, then close the other side of the pastry sheet on top and seal properly using a fork on all sides. Once it's ready, cover and chill in the freezer. For the sweet cheese puffs, I cut each sheet into half diagonally, then place half a piece of the cheese block on each piece and fold the pastry on top, then seal with your fingers on each side. Make sure to seal properly. There should be no holes to make sure that the cheese does not dry out while baking. Once this is done, cover and chill until frozen. For the zaatar puffs, I like to place the filling into a piping bag for easy assembly. Make sure not to add too much filling on each piece or it'll become hard to seal. Seal it in the same way as the sweet cheese puffs, then cover and chill it until frozen. Once the puffs are frozen, transfer them into a Ziploc bag for easy storage. Pre-freezing them is important or they will stick to each other in the bag. Make sure to label them so that you know which bag contains which flavor. Once you're ready to bake them, give them an egg wash, then top the sweet puff with nigella seeds, zaatar puffs with more zaatar and pizza puff with some cheese and bake for 15 to 20 minutes. Once they're baked, top the sweet cheese puffs with sugar syrup while they're still hot and serve as soon as possible. Each of these flavors are so unique and so delicious. I'm sure you will love having them for iftar. Now let's move on to prepping the filling for our samosas. I'm making 3 kinds: potato, chicken taco inspired and paneer. For the potato filling, mix boiled mashed potatoes with salt, onion, coriander, red chili powder, cumin powder and chaat masala and mix well until combined. Next, let's make the chicken taco filling. This may sound odd, but trust me, it tastes absolutely delicious. First, we marinate the chicken in a very simple homemade taco spice. I like to make extra and marinate some additional sliced chicken and store it in the freezer when I want to make tacos. For the samosas, I keep the chicken breast whole as they will be shredded. Once the chicken is marinated, start the sauce by adding chili flakes and minced garlic in oil, then add tomato paste and cook until it deepens in color. Now add canned or whole tomatoes. I prefer using canned as they add more flavor and create a better sauce. Add salt, let it cook for a few minutes, then add the marinated chicken, let it sear on both sides for a few minutes, then add water and simmer until the chicken is completely cooked. Once it's cooked, shred the chicken and cook it down until all the water has been reduced, then add coriander and set it aside to cool. To make the paneer filling, add cumin and green chili in oil and cook until they spatter, then add minced ginger and garlic, cook it down and add onion and cook it until it's translucent. After that, add red chili powder, chili flakes and salt and cook it for 2 more minutes. Then take it off the heat and add paneer. Make sure it's defrosted and break it down very properly and mix it well with the spice. It should look like this. Now that all the fillings are ready, I'm going to go ahead and fill the samosas. I have my assembly station right here. I've put a large piece of parchment paper on my counter. Basically, I'm just going to assemble them all here. Then I have all my fillings which have completely cooled down. This is super important. You don't want the fillings to be even warm. When you're filling the samosas, you want them to be completely cooled down or it's going to be a big mess. And I've also made this flour and water paste. It's basically just all-purpose flour or whole wheat flour, any kind of flour, just mixed with water until you kind of get like this consistency, and this is what's gonna act like our glue when we assemble the samosa. So in my last video I told you guys that my mom folds her samosa a little differently than the regular, triangle. There's still a triangle, but it's like one side is longer than the other. She just folded it that way ever since I remember. So that's the way I tend to do it because that's how I've seen it always being done, and it doesn't make any difference to the actual flavor. But when I did share that, I got a lot of negativity, like all these people coming at me, that's not how you fold a samosa. And at the end I was just like, that's how my mom folds a samosa, and it's not gonna make any difference to the flavor. So you do you. I'm going to show you both ways. Okay, first the authentic version. I'm going to show you how to do the folds just on the leaf without the filling right now, and then we'll do it with the filling just so that you can see how the folds are actually done. To start, pick one bottom edge of the leaf and pull it up to the opposite side in a way that some of the leaf is over the edge, then fold a triangle over itself towards the opposite edge. At this step, you will have an opening like this where you can add the filling. Once the filling is added, fold the triangle on itself, then fold it from the bottom side towards the remaining leaf and turn and tuck the overhang into the leaf pocket, and your samosa will be ready. Now let's fill one. Turn the corner edge to the opposite side, seal it with glue, then turn the triangle over itself, open the pocket and add the filling. Make sure not to add too much or it will become difficult to fold. Press it down, then add the flour glue on the bottom side of the triangle and fold it over. Cover the remaining part of the leaf with flour and fold it from the bottom side, then tuck it the overhang to seal completely. And now for the not authentic way of folding the samosas, which is easier, so you choose. For this, take one bottom edge of the leaf and match it perfectly to the opposite edge without leaving any overhang. Then fold it twice, matching the opposite edge each time. At this step, you will have the pocket which you can stuff with the filling, then fold it in the same way again, matching the edge. Cover the remaining part of the leaf with the flour mixture, then fold it again and tuck the overhang towards the opposite side to seal the samosa completely. As the samosas get prepared, keep them covered or they will dry out. Once they are all ready, place them into tightly sealed Ziploc bags, then label them so that you know which one is which. Once you're ready to fry them, take them out an hour before and fry them on medium heat until they're golden brown. Here we have our 3 samosas. Let's take a look, starting with the aloo samosa. This is such a good veg option. The chicken taco is definitely my favorite, but the paneer is super flavorful too. The next thing we'll be prepping are a few chicken marinades. So I've actually shared 4 really nice chicken marination recipes in my previous vlog, so do check those out if you like having marinated chicken in your freezer, because for me it's basically like a lifesaver. And I also try that we eat healthy time to time even during Ramadan, so these are really good to have in your freezer. Today I'm going to share 2 new chicken marination recipes, and they're both really easy and really delicious. First, we're making the spicy tomato chicken marinade, which is super simple to make. Add tomato, onion, garlic, green chili and parsley and blend until they form a paste. Then add yogurt, lemon, salt, pepper, tomato paste and all the other spices and mix until everything is well combined. I'm using full chicken breast for this recipe, but you can use smaller pieces too. Mix the chicken with salt and oil, then add half of the marination into the chicken and mix well until the chicken is properly coated, and reserve the remaining marination to store and cook to use as a sauce for the chicken. This recipe is from Palestini Foodie and you can find the direct link in the description. Now let's make the gochujang honey chicken. Gochujang is a Korean barbecue paste. It's super flavorful and delicious on its own. You can only use that, but I also like to add miso. Mix both the paste with little hot water, then add honey to balance out the saltiness. Mix it well, then add the chicken breast and coat it properly into the sauce. Once the marinations are done, transfer them into a bag and label them. Make sure to remove all the air from the bag so that you can store them easily, and don't forget about the reserved marinade for the spicy chicken, which you can use as a sauce. The final thing we're gonna prep for the freezer is some pasta sauce. So I personally love eating pasta. It's like my comfort food. I can eat it at any point of time. And the pasta sauce I make is pretty simple, but this makes it very easy to freeze as well. So I'm just gonna make it, freeze it, and just thaw it and use it whenever I want to have pasta for iftar. Start by adding oil in a hot pan, then add chili flakes and minced garlic. Give them a quick stir and let them cook for a minute. Then add tomato paste, mix and let it cook off for a few minutes until it deepens in color. Next, add the canned tomatoes, salt and sun-dried tomatoes. Mix and let it cook covered until the tomatoes soften. Once they have softened, add grated parmesan and cook until the water has reduced. I like to store the sauce in these silicone ice cube trays. They're very easy to use. You can just pop out the cubes and place them in a pan to defrost whenever you want to make pasta. Seal and store it in the freezer for use. When you want to use it, you can defrost the sauce in a pan and add some pasta water and cook it. Then add the pasta, mix it well until it's coated with the sauce and serve it with some extra grating of parmesan. Now the freezer prep is done. Let's move on to phase 4, which is suhoor prep. Now I personally don't like to eat a lot during suhoor. It's more like breakfast for me. I don't have heavy items. I cannot eat meat items. I can just do breakfast stuff like eggs and oats and all of those things. So I'm going to be prepping two very simple things. The first one is a Weetabix Protein mix. So this is basically something I eat very often during breakfast. It's kind of like oats, but I use Weetabix, which is basically a fiber biscuit, and it replicates oats really well. And I just like to mix it with protein powder, a little bit of cinnamon, and cook it with milk in the microwave. I don't even need to use the stove, and then I top it with whatever I like. And it's healthy, it's high protein, it keeps me full, and I think it's a great breakfast idea. Second thing I'm going to be prepping is some Shakshouka sauce. Just the way we prepped pasta sauce, it's kind of similar, but it has different spices, it has some onions, so the taste is very different. I'm going to prep that, freeze it, so that whenever I want to have eggs, something that's a little different, I can just remove it before sleeping and then just pour in some eggs into the sauce, cook them, and I'll have a really delicious filling breakfast or suhoor ready to go. Let's start with the Weetabix mixture. I like to use the protein version of Weetabix for this. I crush them well and add them to a bowl, then add any protein powder you like. I like the vanilla by My Protein. Then add loads of cinnamon and mix it until everything is combined. Transfer it into a cereal box and you'll have easy breakfast ready to go. Just mix it with milk and heat it in the microwave and top it with anything you like. Now let's make the Shakshouka sauce. Add cumin and chili flakes into the oil, then let it crackle. Add onions, give them a quick mix and let them cook. Then add ginger and garlic, stir and let them cook for a few minutes, then add tomato paste. Let it cook out, then add paprika, cumin, coriander and sumac and let it mix. Let the spices temper, then add the canned tomatoes and salt and mix well. Cover and let it cook until the tomatoes are softened. I like to keep my sauce chunky, but you can break it down for a smoother sauce. I'm storing it in the same way as the pasta sauce in the silicone ice cube tray because it's perfect. Now we're moving on to phase 4, which I think is probably the most important, and that is condiments. By condiments, I mean all the sauces, chutneys, dips that you use throughout the month, because I know we use a lot of them, especially with puff pastries, samosas and all those things we eat. We need our chutneys. So today I'm going to show you how to make 4 types of chutneys. Starting with the green chutney made by blending coriander, mint, garlic, cumin, green chili and salt. I like to finish with lemon and vinegar. Next we are making a green coconut chutney blending dry coconut, roasted chane, peanut, garlic, green chili, coriander and salt into a thick base. Next we are making the classic sweet and sour tamarind chutney. For this you first have to soak the tamarind pulp in warm water for a few hours. Once it's softened, mix it well with the water to release as much pulp as possible. Then strain it into a saucepan. I recommend pouring some warm water on top to make the straining process easier. This will take some time, but make sure you remove as much pulp as possible. Now add sugar, salt and cumin powder into the tamarind pulp water. Give it a quick stir and let it cook on medium-low heat for up to an hour until the water reduces about 3/4 of the way and you have a thick chutney. Make sure to keep mixing often so that it does not stick to the bottom of the pan. The final chutney we are making is a South Indian inspired tomato chutney, which is super flavorful and goes well with everything. Start by cracking some mustard seeds and chana dal in hot oil, then add grated garlic, let it cook for a minute, add onions and cook until they become translucent, then add curry leaves and dried red chili and cook again for 2 minutes. Add the tomatoes, salt and red chili powder and cook on medium heat until the tomatoes and spices are tempered and reduced, then let it cool a bit and blend with a little water until smooth. I recommend storing the chutneys in an airtight jar. This reduces the chance of them going bad. The coconut and tomato chutney will last for up to 2 weeks, so make sure not to make a very big portion. 2 other things that I like to have prepped during Ramadan is sugar syrup, because I use that a lot. I think I use it every single day, especially for my sweet cheese puffs, because like I mentioned, you just have to pour the sugar syrup on top. So I like to prep it in advance, and the way I make it and store it, it doesn't really crystallize over the month, so you can really keep it throughout the month and not have to make it every single day. The second thing I like to make is a recent addition to my routine, and it's basically a sweet tahini and honey sauce, I can call it. I've tried this in Saudi with dates and it's so absolutely delicious. So I really have this all the time in my fridge nowadays, because I use it a lot during breakfast. So I'll put it over my oats or my Weetabix with dates and a little bit of chocolate. Tastes really delicious, but it's also really great for like just dipping your dates into. So if you want something different during iftar when you're breaking a fast, you could make these and store it for up to 2 weeks, and it'll stay good and it tastes absolutely delicious and it adds a nice different touch to your iftar. So let's make them. To make the sugar syrup, add equal parts of sugar and water into a pan and let it cook on high heat until it comes to a boil, and make sure not to stir at this time or it may crystallize. Then let it simmer for 10 to 15 minutes until it thickens and store it in an airtight jar. For the sweet tahini sauce, mix tahini, which is sesame paste, with water, honey and sea salt. When you are mixing it, you will notice that it looks split, but that's just because the water is emulsifying. Add more water and mix it until you have a smooth sauce like this consistency. The sauce should be stored in fridge in an airtight container. One final thing for this section, which probably is not going to count as a condiment, but I honestly didn't know which section to put it in. I'm going to make a pakora mixture. So this is basically going to be dry mix. Like I'm going to mix the gram flour and all the other spices, salt, all these things that I usually use when I'm making pakoras, because that's something I use almost every single day. So I just like to create like the mixture in one go, and it's dry, so you can just store it throughout the month very easily. And whenever I want to make the pakoras, I can just mix it with water and add whatever veggies I want to add into it, and it's very smooth sailing for me that way. I know you're probably thinking, Aisha, how lazy are you? But I'm not lazy, just trust me. These small things right now, they might seem like nothing, that oh, can't I just mix a few things at the very end? But when you are fasting and you're tired and you've come from a work day, or you're just tired, you've been working all day at home, looking after your kids, studying, whatever you've been doing, these things, these shortcuts, you're gonna thank yourself for it, trust me, and hopefully thank me too. Now again, you can add whatever spices and additions you like to put into your basin, your pakora powder. It's completely customizable. I'm just making it the way I like it, but it's completely up to you. In a bowl, add loads of gram flour, then add plenty of salt and any spices of your choice. I use red chili and cumin powder. Mix well until combined, then store the mixture in an airtight jar and it'll last you the whole month. Now let's move on to the fifth and final part of my Ramadan meal prep, and that is beverages. Now again, I don't prep a lot for beverages, but we do like to drink something different every day. I know we have our usual ruabza and all of those classic things, but there are two things that I prep for beverages that turn out really delicious, and they're quick and simple. So let's get started. First, we'll be making a simple berry syrup that can be used to create delicious mocktails. Just mix frozen or fresh berries with sugar in a 2:1 ratio, 2 parts berries, 1 part sugar. You can also add lemon zest for a kick. Let the mixture cook on medium heat until the berries soften and break down. Don't cook it for too long or it'll turn into a jam. You want the consistency to be a little watery. Turn off the heat and strain the sauce properly, and the liquid that will remain will be your berry syrup, and you can use this strained pulp like a delicious jam. It's really tasty. Store it, and you can use it to make a quick mocktail by mixing it with fresh mint and some lime soda, and you can also use different berries or fruits to create a syrup in the same way. I also like to freeze individual portion of fruits to put into the blender to make a cocktail juice. I like strawberries, bananas and mangoes, but I couldn't find any mangoes. But when I want to make it, I'll just put this packet into the blender with some mango juice or fresh mangoes, guava juice, honey and milk, and blend until combined. It's inspired by the Saudi shawarma shop cocktail juices. If you know, you know. So I have both my drinks in hand. Let's taste test them. First, the cocktail juice. Yum, that's so delicious. Oh my god, it reminds me of Saudi. It's pretty close to the original, not perfect, but really good. And the berry mojito, wow, I can't believe it is so easy to make this at home. Like, this tastes exactly like what we order in restaurants, and they charge us like 40 dirhams for each drink. It's so delicious, so refreshing. This is gonna be great for Ramadan, and I'm definitely gonna use some more fruits to make more syrups and store them because I love these. This is exactly what I needed to finish off my Ramadan meal prep. I really need to relax right now. I'm quite tired, but honestly, I feel so relieved that I'm really prepared for Ramadan. My freezer is stocked. I don't have to worry about anything else during Ramadan as well. This is going to be so helpful, and I really hope you enjoyed the recipes, you enjoyed the tips, and you found them helpful. If you have any questions at all, let me know in the comments. I'll leave all the written recipes in the description as well. If you need links for anything, again, ask in the comments. And thank you so much for sticking along, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye bye, and Ramadan Kareem.